All right, guys, I'm gonna get started. Thank you. You ready with the camera, by the way? Okay, cool. Just so you know, this is my very first meetup ever organizing any of this. And the reason I put this together is because I think it's needed. I think that we need to know what's important for us to perform as better human beings so we can go to work and have energy. We can make sure that we can get home and have energy to spend with our families. It's really important for all of us to understand how to take care of our bodies and how to be better human beings. So I wanted to put together a meetup group that would allow everyone to learn from experts in various fields, from medicine to business, to let us know the tricks that they know. And I think that we can all become better as a result. So let me ask you guys a question by show of hands. How many of you woke up this morning feeling energetic and excited? So that's like 5 people. Okay, I didn't. All right, I hit the snooze button. And I think that that's a sign that shows that there's something wrong, because either we're not getting enough sleep, or we didn't ingest the right nutrients to allow us to wake up efficiently. Maybe the timing of our meals didn't work right. So there are a lot of things that I think we can improve upon as long as we have the tools to be able to measure what it is we're doing, so that way we can figure out what we can do, what we're doing wrong. So that's what Peak Performance is all about. I plan to do this once a month. I want to have speakers who really are well informed, who can teach us what it is that they're doing in the marketplace and in research to further humanity. I think that's what everyone here is really interested in. So today's lineup, we have Marcus Foster from Klarismo. Klarismo is a very interesting company that is taking MRI machines and being able to scan your body to understand just what types of muscles and tissues you have in there, to understand where your trouble areas are, what muscle groups you need improvement on, and I hope I'm getting this right. Actually, I think Marcus can explain it better than I can. So, without further ado, please, Marcus Foster. Okay.
So my excuse for not feeling very energetic this morning was severe jet lag. Just flew in from London a couple of days before. So that's my excuse for that. We all walk around inside our bodies all day long, every single day of our lives. And yet, most of us really have no idea what's going on, even just beneath the surface of our skin. And for me, this all changed, to some extent at least, in October 2011, when my clicker is not working. This was me, 28th of October 2011, after a pretty severe cycling accident, quite dramatic. If you can see a faint smile there on my face, that's because they just turned on the morphine drip, which is really an amazing experience. Highly recommend it. I broke a bunch of bones, and so I had a CT scan done of my thorax. And this is the way that radiologists like to look at a CT scan, basically a flat slice. They're used to looking at X-rays, everything is in 2D. And, if you know what you're looking for, then you can actually see, there's a broken rib there. But that's the only thing that's really of any interest to a radiologist in this scan. Being naturally curious, I started playing around with the data, and was then able to realize that I could create images that look more like this, much more interesting, and even here, wait, you can see those broken ribs there, much better. Or an image like this of my lungs, my actual lungs, that I was able to play around with. And I thought this stuff looked extremely interesting. Why didn't my doctor ever show this to me? Why didn't anybody actually present the data in this way to me? A couple of years later, I was diagnosed with a tumor in my head and had an MRI scan done. And again, the radiologist is really only interested in this tiny little area there, tiny little gray blob, which is the tumor. Quite boring, really. Whereas, if you look at all the other stuff in this image, much more interesting, your brain, your eyes, and, how everything hangs together. So really interesting to me, not at all interesting for medical diagnostics. It basically gets thrown away. And so that's when the idea of Klarismo really came about. That's how we got started, as an attempt to create something interesting and exciting for consumers using this amazing medical imaging technology. Or as one investor accused me of, trivializing this technology for, nonsense stuff like looking inside your body. Who wants that? Because the problem really today is that, we're quite limited in terms of, looking, exploring our own body. We can, look at ourselves in the mirror, and we can, look at ourselves this way. But our bodies are opaque, and so we can't really see very much. And we can collect some other data, like our weight, which tells us something maybe about what's going on inside our body. But again, it's sort of a secondary piece of data you can collect. And the vision for Klarismo really is to turn your body into an interactive and even, immersive experience. Imagine exploring, detailed 3D model of your body together with your personal trainer or your coach in a virtual environment. Poking at everything, taking it apart, and then explaining to you what's what. So the way we do this, as George already said, is we use MRI scans. We scan you. An MRI scan is perfectly safe. It's not a CT scan. CT scans kill you, so don't have them. But an MRI scan you can have pretty much every day if you really wanted to. It takes about 30 minutes, and we collect a head-to-toe scan of your body, about 90 million voxels with 3mm resolution. There's no medical diagnostics going on. The scan is entirely done for us to understand what kinds of tissue you have in your body. And out of that, we create sort of a dashboard. We do a lot of image processing and computer vision stuff, and we create a bunch of interesting insights about your body from your scan. Some of the stuff we can tell you today, apart from all these visualizations, we can obviously slice your body in any which way you want. We can measure fat deposits. I'll talk a bit about that afterwards. We can tell you how much bigger your brain is than Einstein's, which is very interesting. A bunch of other more or less trivial things like that. But of course, even something like telling you about how big your brain is actually quite difficult. There's a lot of really complicated stuff that needs to go on, which really is why Klarismo is essentially a machine vision company. Because as I said before, traditionally this data, the MRI scans, aren't really used for this kind of analysis. They're used for somebody to look at and say, oh yeah, there's this and this, some kind of tumor. But nobody's really interested in this more trivial kind of stuff. Definitely fat quantification is one of the more obvious things that we do. We measure both your subcutaneous fat, which is the fat that's sort of under your skin, which is bad, but not really that bad. But uniquely, MRI can also measure and then visualize the visceral fat, which is all the bad fat that sort of accumulates around your organs in your abdominal cavity. And then, we can compare you to populations, both global as well as, our Klarismo users. And, a lot of people always ask, well, what's the recommended amount of visceral fat to have? And the answer is, well, nobody really knows because nobody's really measuring it in that way at scale. So, all we have is, okay, we've scanned, 1,000 people, and, this is kind of the distribution, and this is where you are. Next step for us then is muscle segmentation. That's also very exciting. So, within a couple of weeks, we should be able to tell you, exactly what the volume of different muscle groups is in your body. So if you then have, multiple scans, we can show to you what has changed, which muscles have grown or shrunk based on some, training that you've maybe done. Very exciting opportunity for you to actually validate that, certain training that you're doing is actually working or not working in the way you expected it. We've only started scanning people, from the public a few weeks ago, but have done, several hundred early volunteers, extended friends and family, and, feedback has been very good. If you want to get scanned, you can get scanned in San Francisco every week now, pretty much, at UCSF here, not far from here. And if you email me, you get a $50 discount on the ticket price. And that's basically it. And we're hiring. Sorry? PP, for peak performance. Okay. Questions? Do you need a question now, later? What's the...
So what do you get for $250?
So you essentially get, the scan, you get access to the raw data. A lot of all the stuff that that's on here we have today. But, as we create new insights, develop new methodologies to analyze the data, your account will always be updated. So we, generate these new insights for everybody who we've ever scanned. So it's kind of future-proof in that way, if that makes sense. So, the big things, we measure fat tissue everywhere. We're going to be measuring muscle tissue. We measure everything that's sort of volumetric, brain volume, lung volume, that kind of thing. Various other just normal measurements, trunk length, leg length, that kind of thing. And then we can compare you to populations, ultimately to your friends. We can tell you how much smaller your lungs are than Michael Phelps' lungs, that kind of thing.
So I'm curious how it can only cost $250.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. When I had a brain MRI done, it was $1,500.
Yeah. Well, there's two answers to this question. One is, thank you, Silicon Valley, all our lifestyles are financed by VCs. And the other one is that, really the cost of an MRI is negligible. Right? Once we have the machine installed, the incremental cost of having a scan done is maybe $50, right? Which is really just the time of the technician to sit there and administer the scan. There's no real incremental cost in running the machine. So we buy, capacity in bulk by the hour, without really adding any additional charges on top.
Which specific scanner in China basically are you using?
We're using the 3T whole body scanner.
Yeah, which I run the one in Sandler, neuroscience.
Okay. So it's, where they have the PET MR and then a 3T next to it.
Uh-huh.
So it's a G750W wide body.
How much is one?
How much is the scanner? Depends how many options you select. It's a bit like buying a car. Base price is maybe, list price is like $3 million. The actual price you get quoted is 1.5, and then you can select a bunch of options like, blue LED lighting on the side, and that costs you an extra, a few $1,000. So in that range.
So it's interesting, but besides the, like you say, the big thing that you want to see yourself, is there some like medical stuff you say?
So we're
Can you repeat
specific.
the question for them? 'Cause
Sure.
I-
So like, is there some medical applications for the scan that we're doing? Is that your question?
Right, like for example, I don't know, like you're interested in, like you said, I'm interested in getting stronger, for example, certain muscles. I assume you need to put in some settings every 2 months or something.
Yeah. So, if you're interested in how your body changes, then yeah, you need to get rescanned. Our goal is as we grow, a larger data set, that we can actually start doing predictive things. So we can tell you, oh, you got a scan, now you have another scan, and then we can tell you, oh, here's some vectors of change. If you don't change your lifestyle in 5 years, you're going to look like this. Or, based on all the other people we've scanned who cycle 100 miles a week, if you started cycling 100 miles a week, this is how your body may change, right?
Otherwise, you're gonna die.
For example, yeah. If you have an accident. Go ahead.
Is the data exportable?
Yeah,
Raw
so
data?
download raw data. So you can download the raw DICOM data, and a lot of people say, well, can I take this to my doctor? Yes, you can. The problem is that the sequence that we use to acquire the data is very specific to what we're trying to do with it. So if you wanted to, say, a lot of people will email and say, oh, I have a bad back. Can I use your scan and then can I see my back looks like? The answer is no, not really, because for a diagnostic scan, you want to do a lot of very different scans. You probably want to use contrast enhancement, etc. But you can get the raw data.
Is it T1 or kind of?
We're using a 2-point Dixon. 2-point Dixon sequence. Does anybody care what that is? It's basically a sequence that, it's very complicated, but it basically spits out 4 images, and one of them is a calculated fat-only image, and one of them is a calculated water-only image. And from that, we can then estimate, what's water tissue, which is mostly muscle and organs, and fat is obviously fat, and that's kind of what we use.
Another question. So a company that many of us may have heard of is 23andMe, which has the ability to map your DNA, but they can't analyze it for you. They can't tell you medically what you have going on, so you have to export it and give it to someone else.
They can now, though, right? I think it just changed a bit.
Is that the case?
Frankly, they can't interpret it the way that you want to interpret it, but there's a lot of cheerleaders online, so you can go get it reread.
They'll give you like interesting traits.
Yeah.
To compare inherited stuff. They won't give you anything.
Well, that's what I've seen is basically heritage and hair color, things like that. I have.
They're not allowed to, not because they can't.
That's what I mean, is that they're not allowed to. You're not offering a medical product.
We don't. Specifically for that reason. Right?
Right. Now, when you export the data, is there anyone that you know of currently who would be able to interpret it in a medical way? Even though it's not as powerful of a scan as you could get from a prescription from a doctor. Are there doctors that you're aware of?
I mean, the answer is a couple of things. So, first of all, in the beginning, we always described ourselves as 23andMe for medical imaging, right? Because it's kind of a similar approach. We have a consumer product around this kind of medical thing, and we provide a lot of somewhat trivial insights. But of course, the secret story behind it is that we're building a massive database of these scans, which doesn't really exist today. There is, a pretty well-defined line by the FDA between what constitutes a wellness product versus a, medical application, and we're very deliberately trying to stay on the wellness side of that line. An interesting anecdote from that is that, if you do an MRI scan and no doctor looks at it, it's not considered medical data, right? It is basically just as if you take a photograph, right? As soon as the doctor looks at it, it is considered medical data, and then you get into all sorts of great
As soon as the doctor looks at it, it makes a diagnosis or a recommendation for treatment.
Yeah.
I
Well,
can look
yeah.
at it. I just
Yeah, no,
can't give
that's true, yeah.
A diagnosis or a treatment plan.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
What's the most surprising thing you've learned from all these scans?
That's a good question. I think, generally the most surprising thing is like really how different bodies are. You think it's pretty straightforward. People have slightly different heights and, body shapes, and, it should be somewhat straightforward to, generate a template and then just fit everybody into that. But it is actually very, very difficult. But yet in other areas, everybody is kind of also the same. So it's kind of a mix of those two things, It's kind of the same, but also extremely different in the details.
How long does the process take?
30 minutes. Yeah, 25 on the scanner. So we do the full body scan, which takes about 15 minutes, and we do a high resolution scan of your head, 1 millimeter resolution, and that takes about 6 minutes. And then there's a bit of swapping you around and table moving and stuff. Makes it 25.
Do you have a way to kind of check for some basic things like you said, for example, let's say you have some tumors or something. So is there a way to let's say, check some options like the tumors things?
If we could, that would be awesome. But no, this is really, really cutting edge science, and there's a lot of people everywhere trying to do stuff like that. Automatically identifying tumors, for example. But as I said before, amazingly, people are very different. The data is very noisy, and it's very, very, very hard. So no, not at this stage.
When you look through the material, how long it takes
to generate all this. So like the stuff that we do at the moment, we kind of do, we sort of promise within 24 hours because, it's mostly automated, but there's a few QA steps in between.
I'm asking like the volume, the data volume produced, how long it takes for somebody to scan that volume to see what's inside.
Oh, like a doctor, you mean? A radiologist?
That's the first one.
Well, it depends how long you look at things. It's you have something like. Oh no, it's like 180 megabytes, 200 megabytes roughly per volume. So it's 90 million voxels, 2 bytes each. So yeah, 180 megs. And then you have 4 volumes for the fat, the water, in phase, out of phase, and then your head is another, 200 slices or something. So it's not that much actually.
You take these two questions and
Okay.
Does this show you your body fat?
Yeah. Here, look.
Like a percentage of
Percentage. So we can do percentage. One problem, as you may already have seen, that we have with overall percentage is that due to the magnetic field of the scanner, we kind of lose the arms unless you're very, very small. We kind of cut some of your arms off, which makes it, there isn't usually a lot of fat disproportionately in the arms, but we are still validating our calculations, so we're comparing it to a lot of other analysis. But ultimately, one of the key things we're trying to show people is that overall body fat percentage doesn't really matter that much, right? It really matters, how much visceral fat you have versus the subcutaneous. And that's something, that we can uniquely provide.
Good. One more question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was wondering, not really a question, but just kind of an idea. Could you export some of the data around a specific organ and then 3D print it?
You could totally 3D print it. So we already 3D printed brains, and the longer term idea is definitely to create this kind of experience for people. You
Yeah.
come to our facility, it's kind of more like a Virgin Atlantic lounge, and you have a drink, and then you go get your scan, and then you
go
come
home
back
with
out,
your
look at your iPad, and have another drink while you 3D print your brain, or get a fridge magnet made from your liver or something.
Get the morphine cone.
Cool.
All right.
The drinks and have a beer break after the drink.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
Very cool.
sweet. Thank you.
Excellent. Marcus, thank you very much. How can people get in contact with you?
Well, talk to me when I'm here.
Well, that's true, but I'd like to put up your a way to get in contact with you, either Twitter, email. What can we do?
Yeah, just Marcus at Klarismo.
All right. And you're offering $50 off for people who mention peak performance?
Yes.
Okay.
We thought about doing like a package deal where you get like 5.
Yeah, it's all happening.